Hi, Jenny. How are you?
Hi, Lauren. I'm doing fine today. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to just start with an introduction. So can you just tell the viewers who you are and what is AAP?
Well, I'm glad to be here with you today. My name is Ginny Langbehn. I am Marketing and Corporate Communications Director at American Associated Pharmacies. We're one of the nation's largest cooperatives for independent pharmacies. And I've been with the company since 2020, and I'm responsible for leading all marketing and communication initiatives for AAP and its subsidiary, API Warehouse.
Awesome, great. So let's just jump into this. I know marketing is so important for independent pharmacies. Could you give us a little background on why that is?
Well, there is so much noise in the world today, especially in the digital ecosystem. Everything competes for our time and attention. People, customers want great service, personal connections, and convenience. But the messaging that they see out in the world, lots of noise, lots of competing messaging. When marketing is done right, it really allows pharmacies to establish a consistent reputation and a brand in their community. It also allows the business to maintain visibility and presence in their relationships with their customers. And, as you know, a critical component of independent pharmacy industry is that personal touch that the customer doesn't necessarily get with the big chains. And there are some pretty simple things that you can put into place to cultivate that voice and stay in touch with your customers without imposing on them. Essentially, marketing just provides the channels to get the resources and information to existing and potential customers, and that can ultimately translate into revenue.
Marketing can be expensive. It can take a lot of time out of a pharmacist's already very busy day. So can you share an example of how, a pharmacist can get a return on that marketing investment that they're going to make?
Well, I think one of the neat things about marketing is there are many ways to assess the effectiveness of marketing efforts. And these options have expanded significantly over recent years with the migration to digital consumption of news, health information, marketing and advertising messages, all of the above. You can specifically measure clicks, views, shares, et cetera, and you can really see what types of content that your audience is engaging with and what is resonating for them. And then you can build on that to produce more of what is working and follow it through and track it to the conversion of a new customer. The creation of technology-based metrics tools that are built into most marketing platforms now really makes measuring things like that very easy. Whether you're doing your own marketing or working with a third-party company for it, you will likely find tools integrated all over the place to help gauge the effectiveness of each campaign. And word to the wise, if you're paying for marketing services, you always want to make sure that they can and will provide campaign analytics for you, because if they can't measure it and report it, the job just isn't complete.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point. And I think that kind of dovetails pretty nicely into my next question. I wanted to talk about platforms. So there are so many out there, from websites to social media, all of which have their own reporting tools. But where should pharmacists start? If they're looking to make their first foray into marketing, what's the best way to go about that?
Well, I think first and foremost, have a website. This is your front door to the entire world. Keep it clean and simple. This doesn't have to cost any money, actually. There are free builder tools out there, many of them like GoDaddy or Wix. MailChimp has an option. Most have easy to use templates you can build from. It's a pretty painless experience. As you're building your content, they kind of walk you through the process. And like I said, many free options out there for that. Hosting your website, which is basically another way to say renting your little corner of the internet, is just a nominal monthly expense, many times anywhere from $2 or $3 a month to $10 or $15 a month. When you're building your website, there are some must-have elements. I believe you should welcome your visitors to your site. Many people go to the internet to find more information, whether they're looking for your store hours or information about your business as a whole. Welcome them. Maybe a brief sentence or two about how long you've served your community, what sets you apart from other pharmacies. I would include a clear photo of your building, perhaps a photo of your lead pharmacist. People want to do business with people, not brands. And so the more that you can personalize your the kind of the look and the feel of the website to specific to yourself. I think that really helps websites. Next, prominent, clear call to action. Basically, what do you want them to do on your website? Do you want them to provide you their email address and contact information so you can stay in touch with them? You could even integrate an automated text message platform and have them sign up for text messages there. Another good way to stay in touch. Or create a form for them to submit on your website. Just keep it simple. That's the rule of that. Do you want them to transfer their prescriptions? Give them a clear and easy way to do that. Just define your objective on that on your website and what do you want them to do, and build something simple for them to give that to you. In addition to a website, I think a really easy, like low-hanging fruit thing people can do is cultivate online reviews as much as you can. How many of us read the reviews on Amazon before you buy something, or a restaurant before you go? Super important in this day and age. Ask your satisfied customers to review you. Maybe print up postcards with instructions on where and how to do it. Make it easy for them. You can target Google reviews or things like Yelp or Angie's List, etc. And just ask people to give you a good review. You'd be amazed at how many people are willing to do that and help. Also consider joining your local Better Business Bureau. Customers like to feel confident in who they're doing business with, and positive feedback from others really goes a long way in helping that.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I feel like people are so willing to give a good review when they get good service. So I think that's a really great point to bring up.
And then finally, social media, the behemoth. And we know there are lots of options out there with that. So those are my big three.
Great. No, that's, I think that was really comprehensive, but I do want to talk a little bit more about social media. Are there guidelines for choosing the right platform? And what do you think about the newer social media sites like TikTok, versus Facebook? Everybody knows Facebook. Lots of people know Twitter, but TikTok is something new and different. So how would you go about choosing a platform for a pharmacy?
That's a really great question, because yes, social media, it's changing all the time. New things coming online and trends in the market. It really depends on your audience as a pharmacy. Who is your customer? Are you located in a rural community with an older population, maybe limited internet access, or are you right in the middle of a college town? Broadly speaking, I would recommend most pharmacies set up at least a Facebook page. Most people, engage in some capacity with Facebook. Twitter and Instagram probably as a secondary priority on that, but again, depends on your audience. Regarding TikTok, Instagram and TikTok may be where you need to be if your customers are the younger college students. But TikTok's probably not a great choice if your market's older than, say, 35. I suggest, if you're going to use something like TikTok, because of the nature of the platform, I would keep the messaging light there and somewhat superficial. It's probably not the platform to be disseminating serious or complicated health news or things of that nature. But the best thing about social media, no matter which platform you choose, it's a great way to add personality to your brand and connect with your audience in a more conversational way. It's ideal for communicating special events you may be having at your store or promotions happening at your pharmacy. And if you're using Facebook and Twitter, those areas, those are good ways to disseminate news and other health resource information in a timely manner. I say all that, social media, I've got one word of caution. Social media is just that. It's social. Your audience will want to talk to you. So be very careful not to provide any diagnostic healthcare or individualized responses about a specific health matter or a question about medications. You cannot provide medical care over social media. That must be kept inside your pharmacy in order to not run afoul of patient protection guidelines. So just kind of keep it a little lighter, more informational, but not specific to a patient on social.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's so easy because it's so social. It's so easy to, devolve into that familiarity with someone.
Right.
So definitely worth keeping in mind. So now with all that said, we've covered, the platforms, the website, the social media. How can pharmacists go about creating a marketing plan for their store?
Well, developing your marketing messaging and making that consistent is really of utmost importance. I think that's the number one thing to remember. All of your messaging, everywhere it appears, whether it's on a postcard, social media, in the newspaper, it all comes together to create your pharmacy's brand or unique voice in your community. What sets you apart from your competitors? Keep that message front and center and weave it in some way into everything that you are communicating. This reinforcement creates a clear and consistent drumbeat for your audience. And, we've all seen examples out there, of disparate marketing messaging from a company. It's just hard to really know what they're trying to be or what they're trying to say, and it just doesn't work. Right. A basic tip to remember, use the same image across multiple platforms to help drive recognition for your business. If you put a photo or a slogan on a billboard for a campaign, use that same photo on your social media and your website as well. It just helps translate across the platforms and build recognition. Best practice tips, I think, for building a marketing plan. I think you need to identify your objective before you start. You need to know what you're working toward. Specifically, what do you want to accomplish in a year? It needs to be broken down into a smaller chunk than just increasing revenue, because everyone wants that, right? How do you want to increase revenue? Do you want to get more customers in your store? Do you want to promote a higher spend for your existing customers? Increase prescriptions filled, or perhaps develop more point of care services or frontline retail to diversify and increase your revenue? All of these are completely valid goals, but each one of them really requires a different type of marketing approach. So work backward from there and review and assess your progress toward the goal on a monthly or quarterly basis. Don't wait until the end of the year to pass or fail.
Sure. Yeah, that's going to be a big undertaking if you wait until the 12-month span has passed. I feel like quarterly or monthly is a much more bite-sized, achievable objective.
Well, you have no room to pivot if you wait until the end of the year. If something's not working, know it on a quarterly basis and then be able to change. That brings me to the second thing. Delegate responsibility for this very clearly in your pharmacy. Whether you use a family member for this, an employee, or even a third-party marketing business to help you, it must be consistent. One-off, inconsistent, random marketing efforts are rarely productive, and they end up being a waste of money. Build these responsibility into daily or weekly workflow so someone is always paying attention to it. And choose the right person for this. I know that might sound funny, but if you're an owner and pharmacist and you don't even have your own personal Facebook page, are you really the right one to be handling your social media campaigns? Probably not. Choose someone with an existing interest or ability to engage in the channels, even if that's not you. And I also recommend starting small. Pharmacist or pharmacist, they're not marketing people. So, start small. Choose something simple, measurable, initiative to get started. Once you get comfortable with how the campaigns flow and you begin to see the type of things that can be measured, grow it from there. Ideally, work up to having 2 or 3 channels activated in one campaign, because studies show it takes an average of 5 to 7 touch points before someone is moved to action. So talk to them on social media, send them a postcard in the mail, buy a billboard in your area. Everything really layers together to create higher visibility for your pharmacy.
That's a really interesting data point, that it takes 5 to 7 touch points to get somebody to convert into taking an action. I didn't know that. And, I guess it can seem like that's a lot, but when you phrase it as like, it could be such small building blocks, it really is achievable. It's not out of the realm of something that an independent pharmacist could do. What's the difference between digital marketing and traditional marketing, and is one better than the other?
Well, I think each option, has its benefits and its drawbacks. The benefit of digital marketing is the relative ease of execution and the lower expense, to do a simple campaign, and the availability of those assessment tools I mentioned earlier, to evaluate the return on investment. Drawbacks would include a saturated digital environment with lots of other clutter that's competing for your viewers' attention, as well as, possibly less online presence and activity of some populations, particularly older customers. Traditional media provides the opportunity to reach more of those more traditional customers where they are consuming their information, whether that's something in the mail or newspaper or even local TV newscasts. The drawback to those type of options is cost. Typically, that's more expensive, and more difficulty in specific targeting, being able to specifically target people and then measuring that effectiveness of a campaign. A statistic that I heard recently it really informed a lot for me. Actually, it was a recent survey from Hammacher Resource Group, and it shows that the top 2 ways customers learn about a new pharmacy or pharmacy services are number 1, from a friend or family member, and number 2, if the pharmacy is nearby either their home or their workplace. In those 2, just proximity, and those 2 categories made up 70% of the pharmacy shopper responses. So if I were a pharmacy with a limited marketing budget, which is probably most, that statistic, that little study indicated 2 things I should probably be doing. 1, set up a patient loyalty program, actively solicit referrals from your satisfied customers. Maybe the same time you're asking them for, to review you online, you ask them to tell their friends or family, set up a loyalty program, reward them with store discounts, gift cards, or things of that nature for sending in their friends and family. And then number 2, focus on proximity marketing. That's a hyper-local marketing strategy. It's basically targeting potential customers near your physical location, whether you're near a residential area or a business district. People shop pharmacies for convenience.
Sure.
And for this type of geo-targeted marketing, you could use digital advertising, you could use direct mail, you could use billboards, or any combination of those, depending on your budget. So it really goes back, deciding which one to use really goes back to your main objective and understanding your typical customer. You just need to speak to them where they are.
How can pharmacists carve time out of their day to utilize these marketing platforms?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be the pharmacist. Choosing the right person. What's going to work for one business may not work for another. But like Nike says, just do it. Marketing is an essential business function, especially in our world of nearly constant stimuli. It doesn't have to be you as the owner or pharmacist, but you must identify someone responsible for this. Whether it's in-house on staff or with a marketing agency. And it doesn't even have to be a large amount of time, whether that's a little bit daily or maybe a little bit weekly. The key to marketing isn't being constant, it's being consistent.
I want to pivot a little bit, and I want to ask, how has the pandemic changed marketing strategies for the independent pharmacy?
That's an interesting question. I think broadly speaking, COVID-19 really has significantly changed patient and customer expectations and how they're doing business with all people, right? This in turn impacts operations and service offerings from the pharmacies. And then to be successful in this environment, I think the pandemic has taught us all that it requires adaptability and flexibility to respond to these market forces. As your pharmacy adds these service options, for instance, curbside pickup, delivery, automated refill options, whether that's on your website or via phone, you really need to communicate that clearly. People are spending more time at home or in more limited environments rather than having the broad mobility and attending large events or even going to large workplaces. So we may want to consider hyper local targeting to, again, reach them where they are. Maybe we're doing direct mail to their homes at this point rather than a different choice. Ultimately, people want to feel safe in doing business with you, and they want it to be convenient and easy to do so. So perhaps now more so than ever. Clearly communicate your expanded service offerings to adapt to this elevated level of expectation.
Yep, I think that all makes sense. So outside of paid marketing and advertising, are there any free or low-cost tactics that these pharmacies can use to market their businesses?
Absolutely. This is my favorite part because, when you can do it on a budget, that's great. But when you can do it for free, that's fantastic, right? Right. As I mentioned earlier, cultivate those online reviews from your satisfied customers. That's easy to do, low-hanging fruit. It's completely free. It's highly visible for others searching for pharmacy services. Something requires a little more labor to it. I recommend e-newsletters. Pack it with industry news. Your inbox is inundated all day long with news from the industry. What would your patients be interested in reading? recirculate some of that content that you're getting in your email box, pack it with industry news, maybe health tips, again, generically speaking, not diagnostic to any particular patient. Employee spotlight for your pharmacy works really well. Help them get to know you. Perhaps some content answering some of the top questions you get in your pharmacy, things of that nature. There are email services, MailChimp's and one that offers this there that will let you send up to 2,000 emails for free. So, that's a lot of people. It's a great way to stay in front of your audience regularly for little to no cost.
I'd never thought of an email newsletter from a pharmacy. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it just keeps that drumbeat, keeps that relationship. Okay, another example, if you've expanded your COVID testing or vaccinations in your store, recognize many people now need these things in place for travel. So reach out to, non-traditional people, reach out to local travel agents, let them know you're offering rapid tests with documentation, or contact local churches who may have mission trips planned. At a minimum, put that message on your sign out in front of your store if you can. That's, think about non-traditional avenues, that are outside of healthcare that may be in need of your services. And to more on that point, join community organizations like your Chamber of Commerce or local business association. Get involved with a Kiwanis group or fraternal organization or other civic association to expand your network and really cultivate that positive word of mouth.
Yeah, I think those are all really great tips. I love free marketing. I think it's fantastic. And I think people can get so creative when they have the opportunity to say, like, I'm just going to try something. Like your point towards about reaching out to travel agents to market your travel vaccines. I think that's fantastic. So I guess with that in mind, what are some final last tips or best practices that you have that our viewers should keep in mind when moving forward on their marketing journey?
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. I think the only other thing I would really add here is don't be afraid of marketing. Make it an integrated and intentional part of your business plan and experiment. Like I mentioned, there are, cheap to free options where you can kind of dive into marketing a little bit more until you're more comfortable with it. And it can help you get started on that, but don't be afraid to get started. You really need to be doing it. I'll share one of my favorite quotes. It's from Stuart Britt. He's a renowned American psychologist and professor of marketing. And I love this quote. It says, "Doing business without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does." I love that.
And I think that is a great note to end things on. I think that's a perfect summary. And, you can't have an independent pharmacy today without marketing. So I'm just thrilled you were able to join us and to, have this conversation. And I think there were some really great takeaways for our viewers. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Lauren.
Anytime.